link. Let me rephrase that. Here on Breeze 93.9 FM. This is the link. The show being brought to you by Pacific Points, iTeeny, Calvo's Enterprises, and Jack in the Box. Remember, you guys can see what's going on here in studio. Watch it live on the Facebook Live. We have Sabrina Salas Matsanani here in studio, Jason Salas, Mike Villagomez, and myself, Tyler Matsanani, covering for Chris. Joining us now in the Zoom room, we've got Senator Telo Taitague. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning. How's it going, everyone? Jason, Sabrina.
Good morning. Happy holidays to you and your family. Now, Senator, we came in with that song, like Looking for Love. I mean, all of us are looking for love on some dimension and everything like that. I know you guys are possibly looking forward to that ARP spending plan, which you would assumedly love.
We're looking for that report.
Tim Balahaja coming out with another version for that.
Yeah, there's got to be a local song for that one being made by one of our great artists here on Guam. We've got great musicians. They've got to come up with a song.
Oh yes.
How about looking for ARP in all the wrong places? We can make a spin.
Ooh.
Well, it's I'm so anxiously waiting to see this. We all are. I mean, it's something that should have been done a long time ago. We were very forthright when the legislature came back in May and provided that information as far as how to spend the money for the ARP funding, with all in good tensions to collaborate with the administration to work hand in hand, because, we hold the budget and we need to know where to put funding that's needed where she doesn't plan on putting some of this ARP funding. And this is a once in a life opportunity, and to not have this kind of collaboration has just, made a lot of people, distrusting the administration. And even ourselves as a legislature, they distrust us, and we're like, hey, we're doing everything we can to try to collaborate, but I don't know, and then she's playing a shell game. Whatever reports that they did give, the last one, which was only 134 million in allocations, which I finally got a letter from
Lester
BBMR, and it was ironic because his response. This was the second response that I received. The first one said it's coming, a response is coming, but if I can, just real quickly, Lester Carlson responded to my letter. With regards to the report or the section in the budget bill that requires for a report on the ARP funding. And he says, Hafaday Senator Taitague, this is in response to your November 8th, 2021 memorandum related to BBMR's allocation of the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 funds reported of November 4th, 2021. Regarding statements in the memorandum, I disagree that the report is incomplete. And omits information required in Public Law 35-54, Chapter 13, Part 4, Part 2, Section 27. The public law mandates that I submit a report that contains funds the Governor of Guam authorized and made available for the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. The report transmitted on November 4th, 2021 for month ending October 31st, 2021 contains such information. The balance of the ARP fund has not yet received approval to be allocated. It should be noted that while 25 million in ARP funds were recently availed to the Guam Economic Development Authority for the Local Employers Assistance Program leave, it was not reflected in the aforementioned report because the allocation of those funds were made after the October 31st reporting timeframe. Be assured that we will be reported for the month ending November 30th. 2021. The allocation of ARP funds is fluid and subject to change. With that said, the allocation to departments and programs may change in the future reports. If you should have any questions, please do not hesitate. Well,
he told you, Senator.
Yeah, so I think.
In other words, it's on the way, right? Executive summary. It's not ready yet, but hopefully soon.
I disagree, he says. The report to incomplete or omits information. Come on, you guys both know, especially KUAM, the link, has been following this from day one. I mean, Sabrina, you yourself, as even down to numbers and what is being spent for what comment she has made, and set aside this money. And none of that was, most of that was not in this report that they provided. But the law is clear. You know, the amendment that I made in the budget law was to provide this information. And I think right now they're just like, oh, we don't have to, you know, give a report every single month. You know, I think they're just tired. So I'm hoping that this is a result. You know, it's working. We just have to be on top of the administration to ensure that they're transparent, accountable, and don't give up. You know, be that thorn in their side, you know, to, you know, come on, you've got to give us this information. You have to let us know. You have to be collaborative with the legislature instead of playing the shell game and smoke and mirrors.
Right. And you use that word like at least twice already, Senator. The word collaboration. I find that very. There's a lot of meaning and a lot of value behind that, because not only between, you know, the executive and legislative branch, have you and your fellow senators talked about when the plan does come out? And, you know, you've all got the document in hand. Have you guys maybe powwowed about how you plan to dissect and parse and critique, you know, or will you all work independently and then get together and say, okay, well, I've gone through it, here's my thoughts, or will you all kind of like sit as a group and all go through it together?
Well, I think you're right first. I think everyone's going to look at this independently. Some people have kept an eye on this, some have not, you know, and rely on other senators to do the homework for them and present what their findings are. But one of the things I want to make sure is what we do is to ensure that we have funding set aside, you know, that rainy day fund, the one that I fought for in the budget bill, that money is set aside, because there's going to come a time where all this ends. I think the Build Back Better, if that bill should pass, we're not going to see anything after that. I mean, that's going to be it. We're already finding that some states, some governors are claiming that, you know, stop the funding because people just don't want to go back to work anymore. They rather sit at home and collect this funding. In fact, some of them make more doing so than going back to work. And so there's two things that we have to be very careful about. One, to have the money set aside for when this money stops, and to the assistance that's still going to be needed, because I don't think that tourism is going to jump back for another year. You know, it's going to take a while. We're being hopeful, but until Japan, Taiwan, even Singapore or the Philippines lift that 14-day quarantine, you know, we're not going to see tourism jump back. And, you know, I've made some phone calls to find out what are the dates on quarantine. Philippines right now is down to about 7. It was 14, then 10, and now it's 7. So we might, you know, start seeing some movement there, but, you know, our biggest tourism coming from the other areas, as you know. Once they lower those quarantine, I think people will travel. They just don't want to have to go back home and be there for 14 days in their house. You know, it's just too much. Luckily, Guam has opened that way, but I think that's really important that we save funding. The other one is using this funding for regrowth, economic growth, and training of our people. It's so important we start training into a different area other than tourism. You know, we can't be so sustainable on it. We saw what happened. So 2 things, this funding that needs to go to, we got to make sure that happens. Other than that, I think once we see this what plan she has, then we can revisit the budget bill again. Mm-hmm. I'm just hoping that some of these people, the legislature, you know, some of the senators don't have a spending spree, you know, going on. Let's go shop, you know, let's do that. Let's buy that. Let's, you know.
Well, Black Friday is coming up this week, Senator. So, you know, everyone's in that mindset.
Oh my gosh.
Well, you know,
it's a spending spree. I mean, they were, you know, Jason, Sabrina, what was so ironic is that they were spending money they don't even have now. You know, they didn't even have now. And using money that wasn't in a reality. That is so ironic. I mean, nobody does that. It's like having a credit card, spending it, and you don't have a job, but you're spending the money from that credit card. And you just can't do it. It's simple financial responsibility. And this legislature sometimes doesn't seem to have it. But there's a few of us in there that are standing our ground and saying, stop, hold on, let's look and assess what is really needed. And right now, the ARP funding, I'm wondering and why she would take $80 million from the 300,000 for the hospital.
300 million, yeah.
You know, 300,000 from the hospital and then take it down to 220.
I don't know. She said she had they recalculated it. But you know, when you have the 135 from that expenditure, that allocation report, you deduct the 25 from the LEAP, that's 160, then you deduct the 20 because GVB was on our show last week confirming that they got it in their bank account. So that takes us to what, 180 million, and then you subtract the 220. So that leaves what, 100 million or so, 135, 145 million left.
Well, there was some additional funding I think she was going to put into the, the initial 30 million for.
Yeah, there's several different things that, I can't recall all of them off the top of my head, but
the programs,
So it'll be interesting. You're right, to see what's left and what they're going to do with that money. But I don't know if you saw that press release when the House passed the BBB, and the governor did mention the 220 that she was still going to use from the ARP for the construction of that new hospital. But then in that release, she mentioned so that kind of frees up money for different sorts of recovery programs, and I believe it was like a gas voucher. Did you see that?
You know, I was looking at the BBB and I was trying to even look at the section. Even our Congressman Mike Nicholas was talking about the use of 345 in the infrastructure. I didn't even see that. I kept looking at the BBB with regards to where can we spend this money. A lot of it is social, economic, assistance, housing, Medicaid, things like that. I just didn't see the infrastructure section. I mean, I thought that what this bill was, the infrastructure bill, was to fund, a lot of it is transportation, but I didn't really see how that fits in with the infrastructure of a new hospital.
Maybe new construction.
I'm still reviewing it, but I didn't see that, Sabina. I did not. I did not see that.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's one thing he's kind of maintained is we should use the 300 million, or if it's going to be 220 million, and instead use it for other programs for recovery. How do you feel about that? Do you think we should continue to set aside the ARP money for the new hospital?
For the new hospital? Mm-hmm. Well, first we were told that it's about, and please, it's around about these figures that I'm about to give you. It's off the top of my head, but if I'm not mistaken, we would have to come up with $16 million in payment of any kind of funding for the hospital as a whole. The 35 million that been set aside from the EITC, to pay for the yearly loan, the debt loan, 35, of course, is obviously not even close to 60 million, right? So it makes you wonder, how are you going to get to that level? We're already capped on our borrowing ability at, I think we only have left over less than 300 million that we can borrow on. And that's very close. That's already reaching our limit. I think that's why the governor went to the mainland to try and get some, borrowing power and lowering our interest rate. And by the way, the only way to do that, to raise that, the debt ceiling, is to reassess our property, our land property, which is probably, go down, let's go down the road here in the future. It sounds like they might be doing that, reassessing the evaluation of property. And that would increase the debt limit. And so I'm regressing, sorry. But I'm not quite sure, if.
I mean, I think we can all agree, right, that we do need, a new hospital or to fix
Yeah, but I'm
GMH.
just trying to
It's
figure
just
out how I think they're going to have to only do the hospital. They're going to have to subtract the 200 million, number one, the behavioral wellness as well as the public health, facility, subtract 200 million. 345 million plus 200 million, is that still going to be enough to yield us less or put us at 35 million a year from EITC funding?
Yeah.
Probably not. So it's just a financial, balancing of the books, how we're going to do this. We did ask how much less it would yield, but they didn't give us sorry, senators, we didn't really do the math on that. It's somewhere around 40 to 50 million if we were to take out the public health and behavior and wellness. But I really just anxious to see this plan so that we can start doing the financial, our work with doing the numbers.
That being said, Senator, do you feel, can I get just an honest answer from you personally, like as a legislator, do you feel as if you have a fairly good idea of what is expected to come out, or are you going into this with basically expect the unexpected?
With the report coming on and how she's going to spend this money?
Yeah. Do you feel you have a good sense of what the numbers will contain, and like when the document comes out, it's like all right, now it's codified and everything, and we kind of anticipated this, or are you just saying, okay, well now it's here and now we got a lot of work to do?
Yeah, I think that's it, Jason, right there.
The latter.
Trying to speculate what she'll do. We don't know. This administration hasn't been very transparent. We've had that word. It's going to keep resonating. Maybe they're trying to fix that. This is the first start, being transparent with the ARP funding, a long time coming. And maybe they're trying to, get that word from being their title, this administration non-transparent, and move that out of the way. So yeah, I don't know. It's always a surprise with this administration to see what they're going to do. And, nothing stops them from also changing their mind. She has total discretion over the ARP funding. My concern right now is when we're going into session, we have this one bill that's going to give $25 million additional out of the general fund to the business community, especially
for LEAP, right?
Yeah, the LEAP. That is very concerning because where are we going to get this funding from in the general fund? People are going to start having a spending spree, and they're going to say, oh, we have surplus of 11 million. But you and I both know, and if you read the CRER reports, 1 month can be very good, but then the next month, nothing's coming in. And it's anticipated that we're looking at a really low revenue coming in like February, March, January. Those are the really low months. However, I was really surprised this time around in October, finding out that there was a surplus of about $11 million compared to last year in October of 2020. There was only, I think, $141,000 surplus, $141,000. That's it compared to this year at 11 million. That's a far cry. But everybody needs to calm down, relax. If this money is coming in, we need to make sure it is categorized and put in areas that are really going to need it. And look at the future. It's all about looking at the future. So people tend to spend money as soon as they get it, and it's gone. It's just.
I did want to shift gears a little bit because the oversight hearing last week, it was pretty emotional when you saw all the original landowners for Eagles Field testify about their land and the plans for this new hospital and the lease that's going to be signed between the governor and the military. And I just wanted to get your reaction to what transpired.
Well, first, I attended that meeting. It was like 2.5 hours, I think it was, that lasted on it. And It was very long, but it was definitely needed. I think there again, we got smoke and mirrors, from the director of land management. I had a lunch the next day, by the way, with other people who actually was watching it, some realtors, and these people understand land.
Mm-hmm.
And they were looking at me and says, "Is this guy just trying to, throw a cloak over everything?" He wasn't answering it, especially when the speaker was asking him a question and he would divert off to some other story, go to La La Land and then come back and not answer the question.
You could see she was getting frustrated.
I think we all were,
Yeah.
everybody. I kind of, it's even the board, the commission. You could see them getting frustrated, and they were even surprised because some of the information that finally was revealed, they had no idea. They weren't given. They're left in the dark just as much as the legislature is. So, and this is the commission, the board. It was very heart-wrenching to listen to these families. This is our property. It was promised that if the military turns over this land, it'll go back to the original landowner. I mean, that's the law. And the biggest fear at this point, and the worst thing I think the governor could do, is just to receive that land from the military and just take eminent domain and take this land without compensating these families. And you heard, Sabrina, some of the cost that they received for their property.
Oh my gosh.
Unbelievable. It was not fair. Land is very, very precious.
Mm-hmm.
People don't care about the money. They could care less if they're going to get $1 million for this piece of property. It's about their history, their family, their family tree and how they were raised here, their great-grandparents, their, great-great-grandparents. Yeah. That means more than anything. So
it was pretty powerful. I mean, the one lady who was like, I have all this property, but I'm living on Chamorro Land Trust land.
And we put that story on Instagram, and you saw some of the comments. People were like, "Hey, I haven't followed this story, but this is heartbreaking stuff."
Yeah, it sure is. It sure is. So that's could happen. The eminent domain could happen. She can actually just take this land and put it, put the hospital on there and not even consider the original landowners. Now there are options that she can take. One, she can, if she's dead set on using this piece of land, then I hope she does the right thing by exchanging the property, allowing for an exchange for these families for the same land that was taken, maybe even more because they don't want to leave, or pay them the right amount for this for this land. But we know that during the conversation, and I had actually my staff look into it, was the property in Chalampago that was actually supposed to be where the hospital was supposed to go originally. Chamorro Land Trust had set aside land for a hospital there. But as I was doing some research, it was the ravine. It's very difficult to build on that. It would cost more money to try and flatten that or landfill, but it wasn't a good location. Makes me wonder why in the first place would they give Chamorro Land Trust, give that piece of property way back if it was unbuildable or very difficult to build upon. So that didn't make any difference. But the biggest question comes here, and if you ask all those landowners where they would want the hospital to go, they would want it to go into Mooning, where it was supposed to go. That property given to government of Guam by the Paris family for healthcare. And this property has the infrastructure, already set, the power, the water. It has some areas for parking already up there. So it's not going to cost as much to build the hospital there. It would be nice to have it in central location because we can cover both the south, and be in the middle. But at this point, it's now we have another pebble in the shoe with regards to, these issues with landowners. And I think that they should be just, decide themselves what they want to do with their land. So I think that's important. There's going to be more conversations on this for sure, for sure. Have you had any of them on air, by the way? Have you had any of the landowners come on?
We just played their testimony on our show the day after the oversight hearing.
Yeah.
But we haven't spoken to them other than the one that Chris interviewed a couple of weeks before.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, we played their testimony, and you're right. It was just heart wrenching. Yeah.
And it was running the gamut of emotions too, because some people actually, they sat there and they were very, methodical, and they cited public policy and saying, Governor, there's certain things that we're entitled to, or something. Others just poured out their emotions, and they were in tears, and others were very, very loud, and they were demanding, do not do this.
Yeah.
But none of them was not emotional.
But the other side of this is there's other property that are, I think, transfer in progress. There were other documents, and there were other land that was being discussed, like the USO, I think. There's some property in Marble Cave. There's the Camp Covington land.
USO?
Yeah.
The US.
Yeah. So this is definitely something that we're going to continue to monitor and follow with what the legislature and, of course, what the governor plans to do.
Yeah, this is the same list I've been looking at since, 2015. It's the same list. And in 2017, when I was at GITA working on the land transfer back regarding the net negative, and trying to figure out how much property that the federal government will give back, and how much property that the federal government has versus how much property government in Guam. And believe it or not, working with BSP and GITA, we found that the federal government says they have X amount of acreage in their bank, but government Guam has a different number that the federal government has. So we were trying to work together and do a one map approach. One Guam map approach was what we were working on, and to try and agree with the military that this is the border for your property. This is on the government of Guam side, and there are a lot of issues with that, and still has not been resolved. In fact, I brought that up when I first got into the legislature, and BSP was coming. I think Telo Taitague was being confirmed. And I asked him that this needs to be put together, a one Guam map approach where both the federal government and government of Guam looks at the same map and sees the same borders to really determine the net negative that was agreed upon in the military, to really determine that, how much we're getting back. And we've got session coming up. I know I've got to get going. We're going at the end of the hour, and Doc's coming on. So session is coming up. We start on Friday, and I'm asking the people to continue to watch these sessions. Watch what's going on, who's making these decisions, because it's like one bad apple is spoiling the whole bunch of us. So please, not everyone is bad in the legislature. There's some good ones who are really fighting for the best interests of the people of Guam, and being financially responsible is most important. This 25 million going to, the LEAP program, where's this money going to come from? It's going to be taken from somewhere else. They do need help, and hopefully this 100 million that's left over, you were talking about, Sabrina, and doing the math. Why can't the governor use that money? It's meant to help the people, recover from their business loss from this pandemic. So why not use that money that was meant to be, instead of going into the general fund, or revenue that generates the general fund that is needed for other areas that are not covered under the BBB and not covered under the infrastructure bill that's coming in. So we've got to be very financially frugal at this point, even though feels like there's money raining everywhere.
Well, work
But-
remains. And an interesting side note, as the senator just kind of like alluded to, Friday also, Black Friday is not a GovGuam holiday. The governor was asked that at her press conference last week, and she said, no, not this year.
You're going to see a lot of people taking leave.
There you go. But you guys are going to be working, obviously.
Oh, we'll be working. I can't deal with the crowd. Maybe in my younger years, I would stand and camp out, back in the day. But now, there's got to be a bathroom nearby at all times.
Well, have fun wrapping your gifts, Senator, and we'll talk to you soon.
Happy
Oh,
Thanksgiving.
take care. Hey, happy Thanksgiving to everybody there at KUAM. Thank you so much. And I'm grateful to have you guys do the work that you do. I was covering somebody's show on radio, and I have such a total respect now, just knowing what I had to, my set list I put together and calling on people. You guys have a tough job, because like senators, we have to try and, know about every subject matter there is, and you guys have to do the same thing. I mean, even at a broader, perspective too.
Well, it helps when we have really awesome guests too, like yourself.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I try to do my best, but I wish everybody, all your listeners, you have some great people there too that sends us comments at the legislature, and they always come back with, I heard this on the link, and da, 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 da. It always starts off that way. I heard this on the link. So thank you so much. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you and Dad.
Create a great holiday.
Hey, there you go.
Okay, bye-bye, everyone.
Take care.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Senator.
And we're going to continue on in the Zoom room, where we have got Dr. Ho